When do you see or what worries you as red flags when you have a child in your exam room that screens are becoming a problem for them?
Yeah. The main thing is if they're just having a really hard time putting it down, right?
Mm,
That's when you start seeing not necessarily addiction, like full on addiction, but that path to that is that they're really struggling with stopping use of the screen, right? Because you want to make sure they have those boundaries and know how to self-regulate in
right?
that sense, right? And that's a learned behavior, right? You can't, it's not automatic. So it is something that you have to teach your children. You know, there's a set time that we can use this, and when it's done, it's done. And depending on the age, how you navigate that conversation can be very different. But just trying to set those boundaries and limits. And if they're really struggling with that, that's when you start seeing, and when I say struggling, not like I'm so no, I'm still using, I'm mad, whatever. It takes
Right.
5 minutes, they come down. It's, you know, 20, 30 minutes screaming, shouting,
Oh,
tantrums.
okay.
Those are the more red flags that we're talking
I
about. That's
see.
abnormal, right?
Okay.
Because kids, they're still having frontal lobe development,
Yes.
so a lot of times it is hard to stop what
Yes.
you're doing. It's hard to stop doing something that's very enjoyable. But normal development is after several minutes, that they should be able to calm down and say, okay, fine, we'll move on to the next activity,
Mm,
whatever it is, right?
okay.
But if it's starting to be 20, 30 minutes where
So
it's
that
an
length
ordeal.
of time is okay.
Or if they start uh, being very aggressive, throwing things, things like that, like, it can be abnormal again. So that's what you kind of have to watch out for.
And then we were talking a little bit before that there was this study that just came out, I think a month or two ago, in the Journal of American Medical Association about just addictive screen behavior linked to depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation. I mean, and that's scary as a parent. What behaviors should parents be looking for to know, all right, this is truly becoming a problem in this way? And I thought it was interesting because that study did say it wasn't just the number of hours, right? It's some of these other behaviors associated with or the type of content they were watching too.
Right, right. It can be also the type of content. So, and also the degree of how they're using it, right? So that cause it comes back to that first C we're
Yeah.
talking about for your child. How are they using it and in what way? Because that can kind of predict, a lot of times we've also seen different studies, the chicken or the egg. There are
Mm,
kids who are anxious and depressed who then turn to screens as an outlet, right?
right.
But they're spending more time on there. And then it makes it worse if
Mm,
they're, say, on social media and they're comparing themselves and seeing picture perfect lives and then comparing it to their own life. And for some reason, that's causing them to have worse symptoms. Or, if they already have those feelings and then they go on and see peers and things doing different things that, they wish they could do. It's
right.
worsening their symptoms. And so I think a lot of it too is just general symptoms of anxiety and depression, right? That isolation. So if you start noticing, they're losing their connections with their in-person real life friends,
Uh,
right? It's, I'm going to my room, shutting myself in there and going on my screen and not coming out and those
mm,
kinds of things. You start seeing that isolation aspect is definitely something that you want to watch out for.
okay, that's good to know. I mean, it's just something that parents can eh, just have in the back of their mind to be thinking about because screens are everywhere, obviously, and this push for kids to get phones at just a younger and younger age is crazy. When you are looking at kids, I mean, especially as a pediatrician, are there signs of almost screen addiction that kind of mimic ADHD, which you feel like, oh wait, this kid was misdiagnosed with ADHD, or what's that interplay like for you? Because now, what is it, 10% or a little bit under of children are getting diagnosed with the
Yeah.
kind of
So, in the thing with kids with ADHD and screens is a lot of times they s- have a brain that just keeps going, right? And
Mhm.
it's very wired, right? It's the hyperactive part of
Yes.
it. And so in order to process that, a lot of times they do need that high stimulation. So
Okay.
again, chicken and egg,
Yes.
sometimes
Right.
they require that high stimulation, action packed videos and screens. And so you may see that and you can correlate that with hyperactivity in your child, then it may and if you have a family history, then
Right.
you may start to think, do I need to pay a little closer attention to this? Some of that in the younger years can still be normal. And again, that's when I would try to set limits on that high
Mhm.
stimulation type videos. But really, when you're in 4 or 5, especially when you start kindergarten, they should start learning those self-regulation techniques and be
Mhm.
able to employ some of that. That's especially when you can start doing calming corner, things like that. And so if they're struggling with those, that's when you start thinking about
Okay.
ADHD, because again, it's pervasive behavior both at school and at home, right?
Yes.
So once they start school, you can start seeing, is it just something that happens at home, or is it both areas? And is that something that needs to be evaluated?
Okay. Those are good tips then. I wanted to also, before we run out of time, talk about sleep because
Oh yeah.
we talked about physical health, right? And I do know that there's an aspect to of getting outdoors that we haven't really touched on, but sleep, I mean, I will tell kids just from a visual perspective with the blue light, that they need to stop their screens at least an hour
Mhm.
just to make sure their circadian rhythms are not getting disrupted. They can get
Mhm.
that melatonin, they can sleep, but it goes beyond that. Just
Yeah.
the visual aspect. Let's talk about
Yes,
the sleep effect,
definitely.
especially on some of these kids, adolescents that really need a lot of sleep and that are not getting enough.
Yes, and special we see that especially in where I practice now. So I'm in school telehealth, and so at schools we have a lot of teenagers, preteens who then come in with headaches. Sometimes you when they come in with headaches, which is one of our most common complaints, then one of the things you really have to ask about is sleep. Is it their
Yes.
sleep hygiene that they're missing? Because that definitely can, cause headaches is screen time. So I always ask about that. And I always say the blue light it's a bit of a gimmick, right? It's
Right.
still light.
It's still light.
It's
Yes.
still light. You have to turn it off.
Yes.
And if you have blue light on, it's not going to help you
Yes.
if it's 10 minutes before you try to go to
Right.
bed.
Right.
It's like an hour of shutting everything off before you get into
Yes.
bed. I usually try to say. And so that really does affect, their, if they have headaches and things, and it affects, their sleep as well, the screens. And so, sometimes I do say, again, with calming strategies, if they wanna put on some music, sound white noise, sound waves, whatever, try to put your phone down face down, away where you can't see it.
Yes.
Again, it's that if you see it, then you start thinking about it.
Yes.
And so that could be another strategy if you absolutely have to have something on. Some people want to sleep with, noise.
My son loves to my other kids, my oldest son loved, like, to listen to ASMR
Oh, okay.
I think that brown noise just really helps
Mhm.
his very active brain
Yeah.
calm down. I wish there was just a little, like those white noise makers, like, should be just a brown noise maker so he doesn't have to. Because we told him, because he's not allowed to have his phone in his room at
Yeah.
night. So, okay, you can start listening to it now, but at 10 o'clock, it's got to go into the
Right.
cubby.
Yeah.
Um, this has been really such a great conversation. I know we could spend another 30 minutes just
Yeah.
talking all things pediatrics and screen related. What's just one last piece of advice you would have for parents regarding this topic?
Yeah, I think just really setting down mindfully and coming up with a strategy.
Mm.
Because I think a lot of times it's piecemeal. Oh, yes, I'm going to, set limits on screens here. You can't have it at dinner. But
Mhm.
n- you don't really sit down and think about the whole picture of how is it fitting into our life. And I
Right.
think that's why the 5 C's are so um, great from the AAP, because it forces parents really to sit down and think about all the different aspects of how screens are integrated in our lives, and how do you modify each one as appropriate for your family, because they are everywhere and it affects all parts of our lives. Screens, are everywhere. You really have to think about, how do I make it so that it's not something that is really really hard to completely take away, especially
Right.
since parents,
Yes.
we use it too, right? And
Right.
so how do you use it in a mindful way,
Yeah.
in a way that is healthy, in a way
Mhm.
that is educational, and in a way that doesn't crowd out and doesn't impede on the quality time you want as a family as well. So really just that kind of whole strategy where you're sitting down and thinking about, okay, let me just take, 20 minutes to talk to my partner, whoever it is, with the older kids, and just come up with a strategy so that we can really think about how we can do this in a way that is best.